Welcome back to another episode of Stuff I Make with Grand Inquisitor Chris. I've seen people post pictures of these paper mache houses in the forums over the last couple of years, and the caption with them is invariably, what can I do with this? Can something be done with this? Because as you can see, based on the grid scale that I have here, this is way out of scale for any of the miniatures that we're going to be using. It's actually pretty close to what you would want for like a G.I. Joe figure. These are paper mache houses. You can get them at the craft stores like Hobby Lobby or Michael's. They're in the paper mache section. They come in a variety of sizes and costs. This one was $4, but I bought it on sale for 50% off, so I paid about $2 for this. Like I said, they come in a variety of sizes. So this one was $5 minus 50% off, so $2.50. I got 3 of each of these. We're going to go ahead and use these to make some larger buildings for our little village, and I'll show you some different things that you can do with them. These provide a real sturdy base for building with, and as you can see with what we'll be doing to these, they can be a nice fast way to help you flesh out a small town. So I guess we'll go ahead and look at getting started. I'm going to do this as a series of a few different videos based on a different style that I'll do for each of the videos. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay guys, I'm letting you guys know that I'm skipping ahead a few steps. The steps that I was going to show you here, I went ahead and just created a separate video for. I'm doing this because I'm trying to edit the length of my videos down to the most important information for them. And because this was going to be something that was going to be a repetitive step for the next several videos that I'm doing, or the next few videos I'm doing anyway, I went ahead and just made it its own video. I will link it in the description, but basically it's just where I go ahead and prep the house by wrapping it and making it so that it's a nice blank canvas essentially to do this on. So if you want to see the individual steps, there will be a link in the description to that video, but otherwise we're just going to jump straight to the part where we start the actual decorating the outside and stuff, and I will see you guys in just a minute. Okay, so I've got this visual marking here on top where I'm going to go ahead and make the cut. I'm going to go ahead and just visually align that to the saw blade. When I'm pushing these through, they tend to fan out going this way, so I'm going to go ahead and when I'm pushing them through, and in order to add a little bit of extra control, I'm going to go ahead and push down here to get the cut as nice and even as I can. Cutting it with the taped side here, going on this side of the blade. Now when you're cutting something, the thicker material that you're going to cut, the slower you're going to want to push it through, because you don't want to force it into the bandsaw. You want to give it enough time for the bandsaw to make the good cut. So here we go. table and we'll get started on the next step. Okay guys, so now we're back to the table. Go ahead and unwrap these. And my goal with doing these is not to create super detailed masterpieces. I've seen some people that make some incredibly nice pieces. My goal is to basically mass produce some buildings to fill out a village quickly. This is useful for a whole variety of games. For me, these would be useful for the Doctor Who miniatures game, since a lot of those old stories take place in, well, not a ton of them, but like enough of them take place on a medieval type of world. Okay. 2, 4, 8. Okay, so at this stage, get the glue that actually works right. Just not that one. Okay. Now, if you remember, I told you that if it kind of warps in a little bit from the rubber bands on these edges, it's not going to be a big deal. And here's why. I'm going to take this. Because we're going to cover that seam with some of these little wooden sticks. When you're doing this, take it up to the edge. Here. And you can overlap the edge on this one if you want to. I'm not really going to worry about it. Keep in mind these are, since it's for a miniatures game, this is going to be from tabletop viewing range. So most of the time that we spend with these will be spent paying more attention to the monsters and aliens that we're fighting off. Again, take these to the edge. Now, depending on the craftsmanship of your paper mache house, the edges may not be completely straight. This one's being a little bit of a booger, but it's okay. We will fix that again with rubber bands. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and take some of our rubber bands. I'm going to stretch them wide. Now, again, you want to get these down near the edge. Doesn't have to be right at the edge, but near it is good. Once you've got one near the top and one near the bottom, go ahead and readjust your craft sticks. And we're going to do one in the middle. So this is how we're going to let it dry. Then once we've got that dry, we'll go ahead and start applying. Let's see, those are the other set for that. Let's see. These ones will go in here. These longer ones will go in here. And I will get this all caught up and talk to you guys in a bit. And welcome back. So I've gone ahead and these have set overnight and dried. The next step is going to be to take the rubber bands off. I went ahead and did the side detail and everything when before I set these off to the side to dry. For those of you that have seen some of my other videos, I've got a video on making doors and making windows. So here I have my little stash of doors and windows already pre-made. Just going to go ahead and pull the door out. Now one of these houses I said I was going to do the doors on the front and back, the other one on the shorter side. So find the good glue bottle. It'll be this one. Because at this stage, all you're basically doing is the detail work. Actually, I think I'll put this one off to the side a bit. Now again, these will warp a little bit as they dry because they're getting moist and then curling up. So each of these will have 2 doors. And I'm putting them not quite at the very edge because I'm going to put a little bit of edging for a frame on them. Deciding on which windows I want to put on. I have some with the shutters, but I don't really think those will go so well on this one because of the size of it. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. those will do. Okay, so I'm not going to bother rubber banding this off. Just going to go ahead and press it on it a little bit good. The glue that I have is really thick, so it shouldn't take that long to dry tacky enough to hold these flat. Something I could have mentioned in the last video segment is that I'm using these thicker craft sticks, but if you wanted to, you could get some of these that are essentially nothing more than coffee stirrers. You could do your edging with that, which would be easier to cut if you're just using something like heavy-duty hand scissors. Okay. Now I'll put a bigger window on the ground floor. When you're doing these, you want to make sure that you put them up high enough that the windows are not in the center of the space. Because you want to remember that the people looking out of them at this scale are not going to be, it's going to, you want them a little bit higher up. Okay, since this is the back of the house, we'll just put a couple of windows up here. Okay, so we've got the back of the house and the front of the house. Set that off to the side. Let it fully dry. Take this one. If your sticks warp a little bit too bad, and like I mentioned in another video, sometimes these sticks are not exactly the same diameter, same thickness, same length, because the companies that make them are not that worried about being precise, because I guess I figure these are just something someone's going to use for arts and crafts, so they can just toss it out there and no one's really going to care. But when you're doing something for this scale, you really want it to match as much as you can. So if it warps a little bit too bad from anything like especially since this one is still not exactly square, just go ahead and put some little sticks and stuff to buffer it. like I had on this one, to help keep anything flat that's just a little bit out of true. So I said this one would go here. Take out my 2 doors and grab some windows out. So let's go ahead and put the front door on the center of this one. Get any glue peeking out of the edges. Just take a toothpick and scrape it down. On this side, we'll put the door off the center. Okay. See, at this stage you can decide how many windows you want. Actually, I think I'm going to leave windows off at the little section here. Whenever you're doing anything handmade, it doesn't matter how precise you're being. If you're mass producing, doesn't matter how precise you're being, you're probably going to end up with some small miscalculations. But this is just model scenery, so we can easily hide anything that goes wrong with a little bit of stagecraft. I don't think I'll do that one there. Grab one of these. Now, I'm not worried about there being excess glue up here. I just don't want to be a glob of it. Because when it dries, it'll be a little too thick. And then it won't be quite as easy to hide with the stuccoing. So, decide if I want any more windows on the sides here. I think that's going to be it for the windows. So, press the door down. Okay. Now, I saved my little scraps and cut-offs on a bunch of these craft sticks because they really do come in handy for a lot of stuff. So, since the doors are going to try warping until they're fully dry, we're going to go ahead and rubber band them. Welcome back. Sorry about that. The video camera had some sort of mental conniption fit. So we're working on these. When the camera cut out, I had just put the rubber bands on and was just finishing up putting the stuff on. I went ahead and put rubber bands on the doors along with a little piece of scrap wood to help them dry flat so I wouldn't have to hold them. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead a little bit of glue next to the doors, put in a door frame, okay, same thing here. Off the little bit of extra glue. Now for these I'm going to go ahead and wait to put the actual door handles on. I'm just going to do a real simple door handle for these, but I'm going to set these off to the side, let them dry a bit, and then I'll get on to the next step. I will catch you guys in just a bit. Okay, and we're back. I'm going to do a quick cut on the roofs, because like I told you earlier, we're going to replace the roofs. This is a piece of artist illustration board. Got it at Hobby Lobby for $4.59, but it was on sale for 50% off, so $2.75 I guess. Second sheet of it cut to that size. I'm not going to use this particular sheet because I've already got it marked off for another project. I'm going to go ahead and run this one. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do it lengthwise again. set up here to do the second cut on these. I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut these, but I'm not going to bother using the guide because they're too long over on this side. So I'm just going to eyeball it. I've already got it marked off for what I need. I'm doing it 2-ply so I can get them cut a little bit faster. Get them re-centered. If they don't come out perfect, that's perfectly fine. Okay, so I've got my 6 roofs and a couple spare pieces that I can use for other projects. I'm going to go ahead and get reset up over at the other table, and I'll be back with you in a second. Okay, and we're back. Now, because I cut these on the bandsaw, there is a little bit of cleaning up here that I'm going to do. It's not major. I'm just taking off that little bit of edge that the bandsaw leaves on the paper. If you're doing any kind of cardstock on the bandsaw, it will leave a little bit of a rough edge on the bottom, especially if you're using an older blade like I am. It's not a deal breaker, but on this, I just want to get rid of it. So all cleaned up. I'm just going to clean up 2 of these. That edge a little bit more. Okay. Get rid of this. Okay, so I've got 2 of these that are cleaned up. I'm going to go ahead and attach them. Now for this, I am going to use some clamps because I want this to dry nice and solid. So I'm going to use 6 clamps on it. Be sure and get lots of glue on it because you want to have a really good solid adhesion. Now when I cut these, I cut them slightly larger than the roof because I want them to overhang so that this piece isn't as visible. So I'm just going to stick that on there now for the moment. I'm going to press down on here and just kind of align it with my fingers here on the sides. Set that there for a second. Get my second one. Same thing with this. Now because this side has these on it and there is a slight depression here where these were taken off, I'm going to add a little bit more into those areas just to make sure that they also adhere. Actually, I'm probably going to end up using more than 6 clamps on this. We'll see how many I use. Okay. Okay, so sorry about that. The camera or the memory card, I'm not sure which is having a conniption fit. Okay. So I've ended up using 16 clamps on this, just because I want it to adhere really well. I'm going to go ahead and let it dry, and I'll get back to you guys with the next step, which will probably be shingling. See you in a bit. Bye. Okay, and we're back. I went ahead and, after all this stuff is dried, or while it was drying, I went ahead and shingled the roof. I'm still waiting on the shingles to finish drying, so I haven't put the vinyl topper on yet, because it's going to be a different cardstock. But the next step is going to be stuccoing them. And my hands shake real bad because I have a herniated disc in my neck that screws with the nerves going up and down my arms. So this didn't used to be a problem for me. A lot of people use texture paint, but for something like this, where I've got to get in with the trim and everything, these little areas, for me that's a hard thing to do. So what I found is, for stuff like this, I still use texture paint for some stuff, but for stuff like this, where I want to make sure that I get it all in there and I want to get it all well covered, is I'm going to go ahead and apply some glue. Okay, so I've got a paintbrush. I've been keeping it in a little thing of water that I have over here, and I'm not gonna totally water the glue down, but I'm just doing this to keep the paintbrush moist and to thin the glue down just enough that it doesn't dry right away. But this lets me get right in there. And doing it this way, I'm not going to end up with a whole bunch of the sand and texture paint covering up all of the trim. Okay. Now, doing it this way, as bad as my hands shake, I'm bound to get some of the glue onto the trim, but you're going to see in a second why that's not really going to matter. In there. Okay, so my glue is still nice and moist. Now I have this thing here of scenic sand, and scenic sand, for those of you that don't know, is what they use to do sand paintings. You can get it at a hobby store like Hobby Lobby or Michael's. Really cheap, comes in a whole variety of colors. For this project I'm using black, but I'm just going to go ahead and sprinkle it on. Now, because I am sprinkling it straight down, the little areas where I got some of the glue onto the trim aren't really going to be a problem. Okay. And there I go. I know from another project that I did where I first tested this method out that it does work really well. So after I go ahead and get this to the painting stage, the stucco will show up fairly nicely. Now I've already done the four sides, and I did the roofs. So now just wait for that to finish drying, and then I'll get back with you guys as soon as we get ready for the next stage. See you in a bit. Okay, so this has had plenty of time to dry on the sides and everything. The next step is, because these are made out of cardboard and they have some of the wood trimming on them, I'm going to go ahead and seal them before I prime them. And the way I'm going to do that is I haven't glued the roofs on yet, so I'm going to take them apart. I have a container of watered down glue. Let's see if I can get the camera up any higher. Okay, there we go. A container of watered down glue, and it's just big enough that I can put this in turn it, turn it, turn it. Now I'll scoop up a little bit of glue. And then I have a cooling rack that I bought over here. I got this from the Dollar Tree. It's like 2 of them for $1. I got the red tray for $1, also at the Dollar Tree. I'm just gonna go ahead and put the house over here. Let that dry. Same thing with the roof. May need to dab a little bit onto the ends here because the pitch is a little high on these. Take the second house. Now this may seem a little bit counterproductive to some, but because these are made out of cardboard and wood, if I go to prime them, depending on the quality of the paint that you prime them with, if you're like using spray primers or whatever, it's not as big of a problem if you just black bomb it using black craft paint. But I'm going to be spray priming these because it's a little faster. And if you spray prime something that's got a lot of wood or cardboard on it, it can have a tendency at times to soak the paint up, especially if you're not getting really good coverage out of your can. It'll soak the paint up and you'll have to coat it a few times because the paint just won't coat it well enough for it to completely prime it. So by doing this step here, I'm going to go ahead and have these sealed before they get primed, and that way when I get around to priming them, they'll be completely set up and they'll get a nice coverage from the spray can. I will go ahead and let these dry, and I will see you guys in a little bit. Bye. Okay guys, so we're back. I've gotten these painted up. Move this a little further out of the way. Gotten these painted up. We can see the nice texture variation on the shingles. These still need to be sealed. I'm going to go ahead and do a coat of Krylon clear coat, and then Testors dull coat lacquer over that. Once the sealant has been applied and it's fully dried, I'll go ahead and put on some moss. To do that, I'm just going to use some glue and some of the green flocking that I have. On the last project that I did with all the smaller cottages, it really helped break up the color and added a nice bit of variety. So I'll add some moss appearance to the other two. This particular one I'm not going to put any on because I just don't think it would look right on this particular texture pattern and color. As far as the thatch roof, I'm really happy with the way that came out. If I get it at the right angle. Okay, you can see that I've got the layers here. It's got a really nice texture to it. I'm really pleased. I'll be showing you how to do this in a video by itself. I'm trying to break up my videos into as small parts as I can for things that have repetitive steps. So that one will be in its own video. But I'm pretty happy with all this. Like I said, I gotta seal these, put the moss on, then I'll get some pictures and show these to you guys on a tabletop. Talk to you in a bit. Bye. And here we go. Sorry I don't have a nice background to put these on, guys. I was looking for the cloth that I was going to use for the background, but I can't find it. So this is pretty much what I'm stuck with. But here we go. You can see this in connection with a D&D figure. I think this one turned out pretty nice. You can see the nice highlighting and everything on the shingling. The really good texture that gave us. If you like what I'm doing, go ahead and like and subscribe if you want to get notified whenever I put up a new video, which is not as frequently as I would like to do. Be sure to hit that bell icon. If you want to support the channel, basically in helping me afford more materials and stuff to do more videos and how-tos on stuff, there is a PayPal link in the description. If you have any questions or comment, leave your comments and everything below. Even if you don't like what I'm doing, tell me what you think I could do better. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.